when my mother gave birth, the hospital was on strike. And I only give this backstory because I don't know if it really has any issue with, any correlation to me being ill. But they didn't autoclave the instruments. She got some type of virus disease, whatever. She went into a coma for a week. They had to remove
Wow.
me. And that's kind of where it started. At 6 months old, I had very heavy asthma. It was so bad that I got stuck in Argentina for about a year until I was, well enough to get on a plane to come back to the States.
Well,
And from there, that's just my story of like constant hospitalization, constant antibiotics, whether it's strep throat or whether, I had a collapsed lung at some point, so I was hospitalized as well. And that was basically my youth was always being sick with one thing or another. Asthma attacks. At the time they didn't really have, nebulizers and things like that, but
right.
that started to be introduced, a lot of prednisone, right? For inflammation, a
So
lot of
prednisone
albuterol.
is a steroid, is what he's referring to. Just for the audience, prednisone is a steroid. You may know that, but it basically blocks inflammation, but then has a lot of negative side effects to it. And also, if you use it chronically. So anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but just to make
I
sure.
had cataracts from, and remember, I'm just pushing 50, right? And I've had cataracts for the last 15 years because most likely attributed to the prednisone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as that went on, as I got older, I just kept adding autoimmune disease after autoimmune disease, psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, ulcerative colitis, sinusitis, and on and on and on. And this was like, again, collecting these diseases are not fun, especially at a young age. Remember, I'm still under 20 at this point when this stuff is happening to me. By the time I was 30, I was in a wheelchair for a short period of time because the psoriatic arthritis was so bad I couldn't even stand up. My hips, my knees were like totally, blown out.
Yep.
And until I met this Dr. Majid Ali. All right, he was a pathologist turned naturopath, and at this point I'm on methotrexate, right?
Yep.
Getting
This
tested
is another
monthly.
drug that basically blocks the immune system activity. All this autoimmune disorders are typically treated by drugs that will suppress immune system activity. And the side effect is it makes you more vulnerable to infection, but it tends to calm down the overexcitement of the immune system, if you will, with regards to all the autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, etc.
So then from there, they moved me on to Enbrel, right, with subdermal injection. And I said to myself, I'm 30 years old and I'm 30% better, and the doctor's telling me, well, that's pretty good prognosis, And he's like, but by the way, don't kiss anybody, don't get a tattoo, wash your hands 30 times a day because you may die from catching another disease. And I thought to myself, how am I going to live another 30, 40, 50, 60 years on this planet, in this condition, right? So after meeting Dr. Ali, he said to me, I'll never forget this. The first question he asked me is like, are you addicted to sugar? And I said to him, no. He goes, great. For the next 30 days, no dairy, no wheat, no sugar. I said, no problem. I was like, but I can have strawberries. I can have no sugar whatsoever. I don't think I lasted 5 hours, and that's when I realized the world I was living. And then from there, it just became an issue of cleaning up my diet, right? And that mission continued to go on as, I thought I was healthy at 30, but I wasn't. Then learning more and more about diet, then learning more and more about these drugs that I was taking and whatnot. And, Dr. Ali promised me, he's like, within 30 to 60 days, he goes, I'm going to get you off all these drugs. And he did, right? And that was the first piece of it, was the diet, right? Learning that.
Yep,
Then,
exactly. This is a great point for the audience to understand that when you have autoimmunity, the first place to look, there's really kind of two things that we look at. One is the diet, the second is the gut, right? So sort of simultaneously is what we're looking at. But the diet is massive here because the immune system, particularly if you're eating the same thing all the time, or even if you're not, if the immune system is set up in a way where it's sensitive to wheat or gluten or gliadin or any of the proteins that are actually inside wheat, it doesn't even have to be gluten, right? There's like 35 other proteins in there. Egg whites, there's many, many proteins that you can be allergic to. So really cleaning up the diet and doing comprehensive testing to see where's the safe path here? What can I actually eat so that I'm not activating the immune system becomes part of the equation here. So super important to go down that path. Interesting. Yeah.
So that brought me to about 95%, functionality, right? I still didn't have that last 5%.
What
Now you
was the
fast
last,
forward a
what,
few.
what was missing? What was missing?
So, it's an interesting question because, Daniel and I are still on this quest, right? To bridge that gap of that 5%. And I'm not sure, but I know in the last year, I've made massive strides in that last 5%, right?
Okay.
Where, further cleaning up the diet, further doing tons of testing for heavy metals, chemicals, glyphosates, fungus, all this other stuff, then finding out that I am toxic in certain ways that I never realized before, right?
Yep.
And so do I still have a little bit of psoriasis? Yes. Does my UC ever flare up? No, but underlying when you do biopsy, it's still there, right? So these are the things I'm saying. Like I don't feel 100%.
Yeah, UC is ulcerative colitis. Just to remind the audience, this is inflammatory bowel disease is referring to here. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
And then that brought us on this journey of microbiome, right? Where like over the last 2 months, I did a test on my microbiome and got a custom blend, which I think is making strides as well for me. I'm feeling much better, right? Good. Also, I've always tested myself saying, oh, how's my vitamin C? How's my, my vitamin D, standard things, but doing deep dives into really looking at testing and figuring out, not just taking a multivitamin or blindly taking vitamins for your deficiencies. So that's right. Also made a huge stride.
Yep. Yeah, this is what you're talking about is precision, which is really what we kind of practice here at Gladden Longevity and continue to expand on, every day, every week is how do we actually understand somebody deeply? Because before you can start to propose solutions, which when you went to your doctor, you have psoriasis, okay, here's our answer. We're going to give you, methotrexate or Enbrel to basically calm your immune system. But there's no deconstruction of the problem to actually understand what is causing this, right? And so what we like to do, and I think what you guys have discovered as well and are validating for yourselves, is that it's so important to fully deconstruct the problem as thoroughly as possible and to continue that because new testing comes up, new capabilities come up and things like that. So this mindset of I want to deconstruct myself as completely as possible so I can have the best solutions going forward. That's kind of the mindset that you've come into, which is, really the mindset that anybody that's interested in health and longevity, I think, should adopt. So kudos to you guys. I mean, you've both kind of fought through a hard path to get to that point. So that's very cool.